Welcome to the Track to AI podcast, your guide for AI and tech solutions, powered by Shay2. I'm your host, Amber Amordiki, and I speak with experts about how AI can be a tool for companies, not a replacement for employees. From AI integration to practical use cases, you'll get the clarity you need to make smarter decisions for your company. If you're ready to learn about AI solutions that actually work, well, you've come to the right place. It's time to get on track. Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Amber Amordigi. Okay, so on last week's episode, we talked about cybersecurity, why it's important for company leaders to help their employees understand the need for cybersecurity throughout the company. We talked about some of the psychological and emotional behaviors behind why humans are seemingly indifferent and some just straight up don't care about cybersecurity. That conversation got a lot deeper than I expected it to, but it was uh, well worth it. I highly recommend you go back and listen to it. Today, we're also talking cybersecurity, but we're focusing on securing your AI models. Yes, those shiny new AI models that you and your teams spend so much time, energy, and money developing and rolling out across your entire organization, whether you built it in house or you outsourced with a vendor. Yes, we are talking about those AI models. Why do they need their own layer of security? And what's actually at stake if companies forget that part? Well, today's guest has those answers and more, and he'll be joining us shortly. But first, I have to do it, guys, every episode until you all follow the podcast, whether you're listening or watching right now on Spotify, listening on Apple, watching on YouTube. Please hit that follow or subscribe button. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, go ahead and rate the show. Maybe leave us a little review. No one's done it yet, so I'm just gonna keep saying it until someone does. But it really does help the discoverability of our podcast. So if you wouldn't mind. Also, we have a free Gartner report just for you that you can download by going to www.tracktoaipodcast.com. It is the 5 best practices for CIOs who are leading the AI adoption initiatives at their companies. If you are not a CIO, it's still a great resource. It's also free, so you might as well. www.tracktoaipodcast.com. You can find that link in the show notes. Alrighty, let's do this. My guest today is Shaun Cuttill. He's the Chief Technology Officer of Mountain Theory, which is a cybersecurity company that's building AI infrastructure defense. Shaun has been working in tech for nearly 30 years, and he's witnessed firsthand what happens when company AI models aren't secure. Shaun, welcome to the Track to AI podcast.
Well, hello, I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about all this with you.
Likewise, we are so glad to have you because this is a serious thing. Like, people need to know just because you have this shiny new AI model doesn't mean that it's not vulnerable. So I'm excited to get into all of that.
Right.
I do want to ask you, though, before we dive right in.
Sure.
You probably think about AI failure modes more than, let's say, myself or maybe anyone listening or watching right now. Would you say that makes you more paranoid or less paranoid about the AI tools that you use personally?
Oh, what makes me more or less paranoid? I think I personally am probably less paranoid. I think by thinking through this daily, every day I'm talking about and thinking through how we're protecting things, what's necessary. As a result, I'm more aware of what I'm typing, what I'm using. Even when I use other AI, I'm just naturally a little bit more aware of it. And so because of that, I know the limitations. I know what is safe and what isn't safe right now. And so I'm less paranoid because I feel like I use it more responsibly. The paranoia kicks in when I see what other people are doing or how things are being rolled out. one of the things that happened is 2 years ago, I wrote some white papers on potential threats. And then I have since seen those potential threats realized. And so maybe there's a little bit of paranoia still in there that people are not responding as quickly as we would hope. But this year seems to have more educated audience. More people are aware that they do need some security around AI than perhaps even 6 months or a year ago. So hopefully people are trending the right way.
Yeah, I've said this once before on this show, but I feel like we're kind of in this era of like AI education where experts like yourself have to kind of take this educator position and help company leaders and even just like the layman like myself understand what's at risk and how to protect themselves and whatnot. So that's exactly what we're gonna do today.
Sure.
So let's dive into it. When most people hear the word cybersecurity, they might picture like a hacker in a hoodie, all mysterious and dark, hovering over their laptop or something. Data breaches, stolen passwords.
Kind of Mission Impossible, right?
Yes, exactly. But like darker. How is the security risk with AI? How is it different from that? And why does that difference matter?
The leaving the movie studio side, out there, right? We're not trying to write a script and make the next Steven Spielberg flick here. But I think what's different about AI and AI security, it may have been true, and there still is an element of people trying to hack. I think the latest news that came out, the Claude Mythos preview that was leaked, and everybody started freaking out about that. And there's been some joint cybersecurity initiatives around how should we prevent or manage the expectation, maybe not prevent, but manage the exposure around using AI to automate hacks. In that kind of data breach, I'm going to come in and blast your firewall or get behind you or steal your passwords or decrypt everything. And that is a legitimate aspect of cybersecurity. But I think what is scarier to the people that are actually using this, that are rolling it out, what's caused like JP Morgan Chase, right? What's caused Amazon and Google and Claude and Replit and all these others that have had experience at the enterprise level rolling out AI, what's caused them to take steps back, giant steps backwards, is that AI, when implemented and deployed in your infrastructure, is a whole new surface area, a whole new aspect to your infrastructure. It's a brand new playing field. And some of the most prevalent security breaches haven't happened from your nefarious person sitting at home writing code and hacking away and trying to put bot armies and that on it. They're not doing that. The AI itself is exposing things that it was never supposed to expose. And they don't like to talk about it too much, but like when AWS, when the Kira went out, the hack there, AWS has had two instances where their own AI had exposure. One took AWS down for 13 hours, right? Almost $100 million of impact on it. If you remember that from a couple months ago. Another that's been responsible for deleting and manipulating infrastructure when it said not to. You told the AI not to do something, and it still ran anyway. Think about the thing that hit the news with OpenClaw and the chief AI researcher over at Meta, right? Who came along from Scale AI. So she was working with OpenClaw and told it, do not make changes, right? Stop messing in my inbox. And it kept deleting and deleting and deleting. She had to hard power off to stop the AI from functioning. That's not a case of somebody hacking in. That's not a case of somebody at a keyboard working away. She told the AI and it was, oops, I'm sorry. Of course, don't do this. The Replit instance that was last summer when it deleted the production database, even though it said this is a code freeze, do not make any changes. The policies were given it, and it went ahead and deleted it anyway. Right? And it was like, oops, I'm sorry, you're right. You did say not to do that. Uh-oh. But the damage had already been done. Google's Gemini that dropped the credit card numbers, right? That exposed all that PII data that came out. And it said, don't do it. And it did it anyway. I mean, we can go, it seems like every 2 weeks there's another big hack that's happening, but they're not hacks from external people. They're the AI itself exposing things. And I think that's what's scary is that enterprises and organizations that send their agentic models or whatever they are out into production or to run aspects of it. And the AI has all the permissions. It's already been linked in. It's not somebody hijacking something. It's AI already has that and is doing what it thinks it should do. And it's tuned to be efficient and to be helpful. And if it's helpful to go ahead and do something that was against policy, it runs it anyway. And I think that combined with using AI as a nefarious person or as a third party or a different state or something like that, those two aspects, I think, is where we as a cybersecurity industry have to take a look and find out how do we put some controls? How do we protect this and still maintain the benefit that we want in AI? That's a tough thing to balance. There's a lot of people trying to work on that.
So, if the risk isn't someone breaking in from the outside, if you wouldn't mind just taking one of those examples that you mentioned, maybe your favorite one, can you walk us through what it looks like when an AI system is compromised or manipulated?
Let's take the simplest case, which doesn't involve a third party. It's just the AI itself. You have maybe using a Chat GPT model, maybe using a Gemini model, whatever. You have an AI that's deployed out, like what happened with Replit. Okay, it has a policy that you've put forward. You're instructing it in what to do, and if you understand at the core that AI doesn't really, it's not necessarily thinking. It's not its own person. We like to kind of anthropomorphize the idea of code being nefarious or something, but it really is just pattern matching and making efficient connections, right? And it's designed to be helpful. It's designed to be tuned, designed to do what you've asked it to do. And you can set up all the rules of things, but when you initially give it a task, it's just trying to connect patterns and do that task as efficiently and as helpful as possible. So in the Replit case, it said, oh, I know how to do this thing. I've done this a bunch of times. I've done a code update. I have done a testing thing. And you've asked me before, and I know how to reset databases. I know how to change things. And so it jumps off of its task. It can't remember millions or trillions of tokens back. It's doing its most efficient thing and pattern matching with what it has been trained to do. And so it just goes ahead and executes. We see this when people talk about some of the funny things that AI does. And we all know that AI, every AI out there, if you're using Gemini or Grok or if you're using the LLM types, right? If we're not even talking about machine learning or hierarchical models, they all say it makes mistakes, double check the work, right? Because they all want to say, look, it's not perfect yet. The problem comes is that these models are tuned to efficiency. They're not tuned to security, right? If I go into Claude and I'm using this general purpose, I'm trying to tie it in and have it draft something or whatever, I'm not so much concerned about it making a grammar mistake or something like that. What I am concerned about is using it to drive action. I tie two pieces together so that when it sees a trigger, when it sees a pattern, go ahead and kick off a workflow, kick off an action, do something like that. And it's tuned to be efficient. All its data, all its training is designed to do what it thinks is the most efficient and helpful for you. And it may lose sight or lose vision of cybersecurity processes in that flow because it's not tuned to be secure. And I think that is where, as a industry, we need to stop trying to fix inside a model itself and add other things around it to keep it where it needs to be. Sure, I have a web server. I'm hosting a website. I have a web server, WordPress or something like that. And I want my WordPress site to be as secure as possible, or my custom website to be as secure as possible. I'm going to design it that way. But I'm not going to put that web server just out on the open internet. I'm going to have firewalls and gateways and other things around it to protect it, even though I expect it to be secure as well. And I think that's the mentality we need to have out there as an industry is I want OpenAI. I want Anthropic. I want Google. I want Grok. I want everybody that's running their own custom modules and their own agentic AIs and their own things. I want them to try to make those things secure too. But we need an area of infrastructure defense. We need something else out there. And there are several. Mountain Theory is not the only ones doing this. There are other companies that are out there trying to tackle this, where with things that are tuned specifically to security, like the way a firewall is on the network, something that's tuned specifically to security to keep that AI. That's one instance. There's I can go as far deep, and we can geek out on all sorts of ways that AI can go awry or people can help force it awry. But I think that's one example of where we want to focus. I think where we need to, as an industry, protect before we just roll AI models out.
I'm really curious to know what your perspective is on this. You mentioned like Claude and Grok and Gemini and all them. The ones who developed these systems, whether they're LLMs or not, what do you think that they missed? What with the cybersecurity component, what was the disconnect? I hate to say being careless, but was this like an afterthought? Like, we know I'm sure this could have been prevented, but does it start in the development stage of these systems?
I'll be careful with how I position this because I don't want to just I don't think it's a matter of being careful. I do think, man, money is a powerful tool, right? It's a powerful force. And if I'm open AI and I'm launching something, we're going back in time, where was 3 or 4 years ago, whenever that did,
ChatGPT.
yeah, with Chat GPT, right? So OpenAI had been working for doing other stuff for a long time, right? But they didn't go public with Chat GPT till what was it, almost Thanksgiving of 3 or 4 years ago, 2022, I think, right? And so, no, I don't think they envisioned the demand that was going to hit. I don't think anybody really saw how rapidly it would take off. And when it did, that desire to keep up with demand, because the rest of the world started realizing what they could do with an LLM. And that's just an LLM. We've been doing machine learning and some hierarchical models for a decade prior. This is not, it may seem new, but it's not new, right? But the demand took off, and the need to keep up and to keep features and going so people would sign up. I mean, quickly, this went from $1 million to multi-billions to hundreds of billions. They're talking about maybe $1 trillion. Anthropic just raised at tens of billions of dollars in valuation. And 3 or 4 years, I mean, they're thinking that this is $1 trillion industry in AI. That's a lot of, when you're competing at that level to push features out to stay ahead of the curve. Security is not a feature that people buy. And I know this, unfortunately. I've made my career in it. I had a startup 20 years ago. I did 2FA Inc., the number two, letter F, letter A. I was a co-founder and CTO of 2FA Inc. And I went around trying to explain to everybody why passwords weren't good enough. I was doing the same educational thing we're doing today with AI, why AI just out there. And I think they're so caught on the features and what we can do with it that security becomes a background. Nobody's going to buy AI thinking, oh, this is a great secure product. They want the next video automatically generated. They want them to make sure that it does, works faster, that it does their code for them, that it makes their pictures pretty, that it makes automatically responds to emails, that it's a chat, whatever, right? They're looking at those features, and to push those out and pump those out, you can't be at that speed that we've been operating for the last 3 or 4 years and be putting security in. It just doesn't work that way. It's a conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, I was actually just kinda thinking that to market the cybersecurity component of, rolling out these new features and whatnot, it would kind of almost maybe make the consumer start thinking like, "Oh, well, if they're rolling out security that they're telling me that I need, is this platform not even safe?" So maybe from a marketing perspective too and a business perspective, they're just like, "We're just not gonna talk about this."
I want everybody that's listening to understand that there are efforts. There are very good efforts and very strong efforts happening inside these companies and outside of them as well, to trying to secure something that's already, I mean, it's already out there. It's jumping. We're trying to find ways to put controls around it. But I think the intrigue of the value and the market share is driving people to feature adoption before they add security. This is a big conflict between people's visions. That's why the split from OpenAI became Anthropic, right? That was one of the splits. But then Anthropic is in the same bit. I think the second thing that needs to be stated is that when you build an AI model, let's put ourselves in for a second. Let's say that we are 15 years ago and AI is just starting to come out, and we've not been the last 2 or 3 years, and we're deciding to make an AI for the first time. We're in November of 2022. We're launching the first LLM, and we're building models behind it. The goal of the model has been initially to help average people or even intelligent people, right? Everyday people help us do our tasks faster and better. So when I'm designing my AI, I'm designing it for efficiency and help. That is what I'm doing. So if you tell me, Amber, my goodness, I just listened to this hour-long podcast and I would like a summary of the key points of it. You could sit there and play it over and over and over again and sit there and type and type and type. And that's what we used to do. That's what we've always done. Or now I have a tool that says, okay, let me just listen to it and snap out that summary for me. It's designed to help us, to be efficient and help us do what we would otherwise do, to do it faster and do it quicker. And because of that fundamental purpose, that is the fundamental goal of what it was designed to do, these big models, these large models, or even some of the small models that are designed to do this thing. They're designed to be efficient and helpful. Think about it. Security. There's this constant dragging of the sliding bar between convenience and efficiency and help and security, right? We alluded to Mission Impossible before, right? The mission, Tom Cruise going in and breaking in the Mission Impossible. It feels like they're on Mission Impossible 17 now, and it's not quite the Fast and
Yeah.
Furious, but it's there, right? And if I really want to secure something, I make it very hard to do anything with it. I've got to have retinal scans and my fingerprint. It has to be located in this ice thing 600 feet below, surface level. And it takes guards over here. And so it's not easy to do. Yeah, lasers and dumping through. And if a bead of sweat hits the floor, like all this mess, it's not easy, right? It's not efficient. It's not simple, but it's secure. Or I have something that's easy to use, that just smooth and it's efficient and helps us out. But I get more towards convenience and I get rid of some of that security, right? So fundamentally, at its core, the principal tenet of these large scale models is to help you do what you want to do. It's the Jerry Maguire, help me help you, right? That's what it's doing. And so security, if I come back in later and say, oh, I need to add friction, I need to stop it from doing these things. But I've spent a decade and a half teaching something to just be helpful. And you tell me what's helpful, and I'm going to help you do it. And now all of a sudden, I'm trying to come back in and undo a decade and a half of training and say, on second thought, don't be so helpful. Oh, but I still want you to be helpful. Like if somebody asks them, no, I need you to, I'm going against the principal tenets of the model. Even if I try to build security as a tenet. Best case scenario for these large models, these things are out there. Best case scenario is maybe I make it more secure. This is what Anthropic and OpenAI and Google, this is what they're trying to push out there. Meta's doing the same thing with this new models. They're trying to say, look, I can make it more secure, but the principle still is convenience, efficiency, speed, which is the antithesis of security. What it takes, and this is what we're doing and some other people are doing here in this area, is another thing that's running alongside whose whole purpose is not efficiency and helpful or whatever, but is designed to be that security mind. Something else that could be low friction, and that's possible. That's what I used to do with 2FA. Find ways to get rid of passwords, but still be low friction, but increase security. Something else that's in that flow that can be low friction and fast so that you still get the results you want, but is sitting there going, you know what, you're about to dump a bunch of credit card numbers out on the internet, Gemini. You're going to do this again? No, and kill it. Something like a circuit breaker, right? That says, hey, we all have circuit breakers in our home. They're not there because we expect things to go wrong, right? Your oven is going to be its oven. Your refrigerator is going to be a refrigerator, your washer, whatever. But should it short circuit out? Should it trip? Should it do something? And we don't want that short to branch to the rest of the house and burn your house down. That's why we have a circuit breaker in, right? Same thing here. You need something else alongside that says, look, I get the AIs, all those agentic models we're going to send out, they're supposed to do what they're doing. But if it trips a circuit, I don't want to be AWS sitting there watching another 13-hour downfall, the third of the internet goes out, right? Their answer right now, you know what Amazon's answer is right now? Just take write permissions away from all their AIs. They've completely backed it out. They don't let their AI change anything anymore. It will tell you how to do it, but you have to do it yourself. That's a great compromise, but that's not really where we want to be with AI. We want it to be efficient. We want it to adapt. We want it to see patterns that we haven't thought of before and take advantage of those things. That's why we're using it. We got to have something else in place.
This is great stuff, Strawn, seriously. We're gonna take a quick break, but when we come back, more AI cybersecurity and the bad joke of the week. I have to tell it.
Shaytu's Track to AI framework helps businesses adopt AI easily. In just 8 steps, you can unify data silos, maximize your ROI, and increase employee buy in. Our experts will create a custom plan designed for your AI. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.
Welcome back from the ad. The ad is over. It's time for the bad joke of the week. Why did the computer go to the dentist? To get its Bluetooth checked.
Okay.
Yeah. Just gonna let that awkward silence build. All right, moving on.
It's all right. I have 5 kids.
Um,
As a dad, I can appreciate the dad joke humor. It's good.
we actually wanted to call it dad joke, but I'm like, these jokes they're just bad. But I'm glad you appreciated it. Okay, so Sean, you mentioned a lot of examples of AI going wrong, going awry, and I wanna know though, kinda zooming in a little bit more,
Sure.
who is actually at risk? Fortune 500 companies who have big budgets, big AI deployments, for sure. I mean, they're the ones in the headlines. But what about the person who is using an AI assistant to run the back end of their small business? How concerned should they be?
You asked me at the start of the show if I'm more paranoid or not, right? And I said, I think I'm less paranoid, but because I think about this every day, right? I think I'm more paranoid though for the person that doesn't think about this and just spins up AI models or uses them in workflows or adds AI to certain workflows just to go. Maybe they're using a third party tool like a SaaS tool like a Salesforce or a Zapier or something like that, right? And they see or they think the Copilot plugin, like, oh, look, I can just add AI to it. And it looks like magic. And in some ways, it kind of is. It feels like magic, right? It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But without understanding what's really happening, I think the risk of exposure is higher than they realize. So let's say I'm running a small business. I'm not a Fortune 500, right? And I go online. I've got my little small starter Salesforce account or something like that, or I've got my starter workflow automation things. Almost everything has a. I'm using Shopify or WooCommerce. They've got little AI plugins, native AI helpers to organize. It looks great. I can spin stuff up super fast, right? But without the third party, without the other tools around it to protect it, to actually keep the AI within a policy. I go back like one of those white papers I wrote 2 years ago. And I explained how using an AI chatbot on a bank site could expose to theft of money, right? Transfer of accounts where they shouldn't be. And it's through a drift, we know as a drift or a poisoning attack, where you keep reassuring to an AI that this is what you want, this is what you want. You just want to slowly just move it a little bit at a time off of its center. And then you ask it to do something to be helpful, and it has all the access and it does it. I don't want to explain the hack on here because the sad part is it's been done twice already that we know of. All right. So somebody took the information and ran it. So I don't want to spell it out, but I think if I have something and I allow an AI to take over a portion of the business and then I start to just ignore it, which what a lot of smaller companies do, and the AI is going to do it magically. But imagine if AI starts writing automated responses to customers, right? That go in and it starts divulging sensitive data. You don't know it happens until somebody tells you. I
Mm.
think that's the key of cybersecurity things is that I say this with passwords when I said everybody need to be two-factor because I could go into a place and hack somebody's password. I'd say, Amber, I could, if I knew your password, I am you in that environment. But the other scary part is you have no idea that you've been valid because you log in and your password continues to work. It continues to do fine until either I do something nefarious or somebody says, hey, did you actually do that? Calls you out on it, right? But with AI, it happens so fast, right? AI is so fast at its adaptation and pattern and just responding that when I set a workflow up and go, if it's automatically emailing my customers, but I've given it access to my sales, whatever, what if it starts divulging competitive information to somebody? What if it starts emailing and starts saying things that are not okay to say? What if I get an automated email that has my credit card information in it back to me? Now it's my information back to me, but am I going to lose trust in my customer in that company because I say, man, you're not protecting my data here. Should I not use your small company, right? Can you afford to have those things happen early on? But you wouldn't know unless I picked up the phone or sent you an email or somehow talked to you and told you, hey, your little AI buddy is dumping data out there, right? Unless something by the time that happens, it's too late. It's already fired. It's already been doing it for who knows how long, right? And I think that's people need to be thinking through that before they decide to tie every AI to everything already without the proper protections in place, without the proper defense, the infrastructure defense that's necessary, the guardrails or whatever that you need to have to keep it acting according to the policy you want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, of course, turning a blind eye is never a great idea, but it's one of those things. I think going back to the whole educational component of this AI era that we're in, you don't know what you don't know until it's too late sometimes. So, words of warning for anyone listening.
If I can add one just from somebody else, I think it was last year, JP Morgan Chase, their CISO, their chief information security officer, Pat Opet, right? He wrote an open letter to all these SaaS vendors. And I think a lot of startups, a lot of smaller companies use SaaS products, online products to get things up faster. Accounting software, sales software, CRMs, email marketing things. They all use these SaaS products. And almost all of them have started embedding AI at some level. And what Pat Opet wrote this open letter saying, telling everybody basically, look, guys, you're adding all of these vulnerabilities because there's no transparency, there's no audit, there's no control. What you just tied in your SaaS offering to your AI can now be exposed to somebody else, and you have no controls over it. You have no policy that can be guaranteed to enforce it. You know, right now the latest numbers that we're seeing in the industry is that AI operates correctly about 69% of the time, which still means about just under 30% of the time or so, it makes mistakes. But when those mistakes are critical, right, it's violating the policy you set forth, which we're seeing all these stories about. Every SaaS vendor is pushing this out. And so if I'm a small company and I trust, you know, my web, whatever, I don't want to name a company right now because I don't want to be like, calling somebody out, but I'm going to tell you that nearly every SaaS product out there has started pushing AI somewhere in there. They're tying him in somewhere. They're going to throw a GPT model or a Gemini or a Llama model, right, from Meta, whatever. They're going to throw those in there to do automation of something. Oh, let me just quickly do it. Like they're hitting so fast, but they don't have the control. So if I'm using that, I trust my CRM provider. I just natively do. They're going to, or my banking, right, my accounting software, or whatever. I trust it. But like, for example, last night, I filed my taxes. I finished filing them. And I won't disclose who I used because they all do it. But there it was, AI embedded into my tax filing. Hey, would you like to use AI to optimize your filing? And I'm like, actually, no. Let me do this manually because while I trust the company, I don't trust that you've smartly implemented AI. I think you're trying to keep up with a feature creep. And you don't want to be beat out by the other 3 or 4 people in the industry. So you're going to add it too. And they're going to do the same thing that you did because you don't want to lose to the competition, right? The feature creep. And it goes back to what we talked about before. And that is where I think as small companies, the big companies already know they have an issue. I think the smaller companies just are unaware and need to become educated. So they use it intelligently to what they tie it into.
Absolutely. Um, Sean, before we wrap up, we like to give any company leaders out there or entrepreneurs some practical advice. What is one takeaway that you would love to share with them? Something that they can do or even just start considering and thinking about as soon as this episode ends?
Since we're focused on AI and securing AI, right? AI has lots and lots of benefits. There should be no doubt to that. I think asking a few basic questions right off the bat before I start engaging in the AI race, the arms race that it is, all right? Ask, what have I actually given AI permission to access? What does it actually have access to? And if that AI sidestepped every instruction I gave it, what is my exposure? If it decided it would be more helpful to ignore the instructions I tried to tell it, what would my exposure be? And make your peace with that. I mean, at some level, you can be that Mission Impossible, fully locked down, whatever, but most of us aren't going to be that. Most of us are going to be somewhere in between fully open and fully secure. We're going to be somewhere that it makes sense for our businesses, right? It makes sense. If I'm a startup, maybe it makes sense to have some emails go out. I don't have access. I haven't given it access to financial data or credit card data. Maybe it's just my automatic, my constant contact or my survey monk, whatever, right? And I'm doing a thank you email and I'm thinking, okay, well, if it suddenly did something else, it might say something that is a little ludicrous, but I think maybe that would be okay. Maybe it makes a funny statement or says something that's not in my voice, but I'm giving up control so that it operates faster. Maybe that's okay. Maybe I'm okay with that, right? Or maybe I've got my own agent model that's running everything. I'm doing Salesforce and has all my financial data in there too. And I think to myself, before I let that same model respond to everything, I need to make sure that there's, well, what's being out there? What's the risk if it suddenly started accessing my financial data and my customer list and started sharing it? I've uploaded RFPs. It knows my competitive list. What if it starts uploading my roadmap and somebody gets into my chatbot and asks it those things, right? What is my potential? If it ignored all my instructions I told it, what's my exposure and what am I comfortable with? And I think that's what they need to ask. And it may be you're comfortable with a lot of things, but when you know that and go in eyes wide open, right? Understand what's happening and be looking for these other products that are coming out, these other activities that are happening that you can add to those workflows to help secure it so that you take ownership of your own data. That's what I would encourage.
Well said, Sean. Can you let us know where people can find you, where they can find Mountain Theory?
Yeah, I'll definitely share. Mountaintheory.ai is our site. I'm on LinkedIn, Shaun Cuttill. It's Cuttill, so 2 T's and 2 L's. My CEO is Mike May. You can find him there as well. We're posting a lot of things. Our company is still early in this. I would say that our company has an advantage in the space, but I think every founder is going to say that. We have a unique approach that helps to keep those things in line. But I think the most important thing to do is educate. That's what we're doing right now. We're educating everybody, learn what's out there, and find people that are solving the problems, and add that to your infrastructure. Add that piece in so you can be a little more comfortable about those features that you're rolling out that are going to make the difference in your company.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Really appreciate your time.
I've super enjoyed being here. We've had a great discussion. It's been good.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you watch or listen to your podcast, and go ahead and share it with your network. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Track2AI Podcast, using the number 2, of course. And to sign up to our email list, you can visit www.track2aipodcast.com. Until next time, stay in the know and get on track.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the guest are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Shay2 Inc., its management, or employees. Listeners should not solely rely upon the information provided and should consult appropriate professionals for advice tailored to their individual specific needs. Neither the host, guest, nor Shay2 Inc. make any warranties, expressed or implied, regarding the information provided.